Hello, Craig. Hello, Daniel. This week we're continuing our Superman talk with Superman Returns, which we did mention we were going to cover last week in our Superman 1978 episode. So I'm going to start with you, Daniel. What did you think of the 2006 movie Superman Returns?
I liked it overall. I thought it was a good movie. It drags, but overall I was entertained. I thought it was a competent movie. Not sure why this one receives the hate it does, but overall I enjoyed it. Just felt it could have been condensed more.
Craig, what'd you think?
I liked it a lot as well, and I was going to mention the same thing later on. I see a lot of hate for it, and I really don't get it either. People say how awful it was, and I get it didn't do well, again, financially and all that stuff, but the movie itself, I
It did
don't
do
see
well
the hate for it.
critically. Better than Man of Steel by a lot. But yes, I also really enjoyed it. I've always liked this one, and I remember I saw it on DVD when it came out, and I fell asleep because I was a little kid. As a kid, you want more action, and as an adult, you appreciate movies that, especially a superhero movie no less, that's more restrained and focuses on the characters. Not that it's some auteur movie, but it's really restrained, and I like it for that. Because then again, I think this episode's more appropriate. Comparing this to Man of Steel, it is night and day how they handle Superman. And I was going to say, I actually prepared a lot for this episode, Craig and Daniel. I watched Superman 2 for the first time, and then I watched the Donner cut after that, and then I watched this. So
Oh, wow.
I came really prepared. This one is a direct sequel to Superman 2, not the Donner cut, because I believe the Donner cut came out in the same year, but after this came out. So... because in the Donner cut, Superman actually destroys the Fortress of Solitude, but not in the Superman 2. So, it's
Well, I will mention-
differences. Yes.
So, early in the movie when Lex Luthor goes to the Fortress of
He
Solitude,
did go there in the second movie. He went
Well,
there twice in the second movie.
I paused the movie, I quickly read the synopsis for the second movie, just to make sure, like, okay, am I going to miss anything else? Because I can assume he was here in the second one.
Yes, he was.
I wanted to make sure there was nothing else I missed, and I think that was really it. I don't think they really referenced the second one much beyond that.
He doesn't do a whole lot in the second movie. Just really briefly, he escapes prison. He leaves Otis behind in both cuts. And he goes to the Fortress of Solitude with Miss Tessmacher. Tessmacher. Then she disappears for a while. And then when Zod, Ursa, and Big Guy show up and they're destroying things, Lex Luthor comes up to the Daily Planet and he bargains with them. He's like, yeah, I'll tell you where he is if you give me Australia. And then they take him to the Fortress of Solitude at the end, where Superman tricks Lex Luthor into saying, oh, he's trying to trick you guys into going to that chamber where you could lose your powers, but Superman reversed the switches, so they put Superman in the chamber, and everyone outside the chamber loses their powers, and that's how Superman beats the villains in Superman 2. Well, enough about that. Enough about both those movies. Going to this one, I thought, like I said, it was good. Brandon Routh, I don't know how this killed his career, because I guess the movie didn't do too well, but his career essentially died after this movie. And it's a shame. He did such a great job as Superman, as Christopher Reeve.
He looked like he could be Christopher Reeve's son.
Yeah. He did an amazing job. And I guess the criticism you could say is that it's not his performance per se. It's based off of Reeves. So you can make the argument that it's never his Superman. He's just continuing what someone else did. But he still did a good job.
Yeah, I saw some of one critic, they said him and Lois Lane were average. But I thought he did a fine job.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, it's more in line with Reeves. So I still like that they reference the, hope this doesn't deter you from flying.
Yeah, the first movie. That was a great sequence. I think everyone, even the people who don't like it, they always say that the plane sequence is probably the best part of the movie. And I think we made a joke last week, Craig, where, was it you? I forget who. Yeah, maybe it was. We're talking about what Henry Cavill's Superman would do. The sequence when there's that guy with the big minigun, he's shooting at the cops, and then Superman flies down, he blocks all the bullets, the guy pulls the gun, shoots Superman right in the eye, and the bullet bounces off of his eye. And then this Superman just smirks at him, and then it cuts to the next scene. Henry Cavill's Superman would have grabbed that guy in the chest and rip him apart.
Like they rip him in half.
Yeah. Don't you shoot me! Rips him in half.
And then fly back to Kansas and question what he should be doing for Earth with his mom.
This Superman, he broods a lot, but the context is that he comes back 5 years later because he leaves Earth unexpectedly to go survey. The scientists said they found Krypton, and he wants to see his home world. Makes sense. Perfectly fine. And when he comes back, he finds that everyone has moved on without him. And even when he's still brooding and he's a little depressed, he still saves people. He's still his old same Superman self.
Yeah.
Brooding done right in a Superman movie. And you can understand why he's doing it.
Well, it's a different kind because in the Schneider Hacker movies, his brooding is, should I even save people? Who cares? It comes off more like a teenager. This is, I think, a bit more of a realistic, like, I guess everyone kind of moved on without me. I guess maybe I'm not as needed as I thought I was. It's more sad. I think it's more relatable.
Well, yeah, because this Superman in this movie is about kind of finding your place. And that's what Superman is doing. He's trying to reacclimate into a world that's like, we don't need Superman. We don't really care about you anymore.
Especially
we don't need you.
Yeah.
The award-winning article about why the world is written by the woman he loves. Just an extra stab.
Oh, I felt so bad for Clark where Lois didn't remember him at all. She probably didn't even notice that he was gone for 5 years. Only Jimmy cared. Little Jimmy Olsen.
Superman's best friend, Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah. And then, what was it? James Marsden plays Richard. He's like, oh,
Cyclops,
I've heard so much about you. He's like, really? Thinking it was from Lois. He's, yeah, Jimmy talks about you all the time.
I was surprised, Colin, they didn't brutally murder him or sideline Cyclops this movie.
Well, we talked about why he got sidelined in those X-Men movies. And I guess some background info, yes. I mean, I think we did dive into it when we did our X-Men 3 episode back in the summer, almost a year ago now. And I think it said that Fox didn't renew Bryan Singer's, that guy, they didn't renew his production company for X-Men 3. So then he left because he had total creative control for Superman Returns. And it feels like a passion project. It pays great homage to the Reeve movies, even the opening sequence and the whole music. It's lovely.
It is. I mean, it's really a nice love letter. And it is a little, I guess, weird when this is a sequel to a movie that came out in 1980, almost 25 years later. Right, because this is something I feel like that happens more now, where we get sequels to movies that come out 40 years ago. But this is one of the ones where it's more done right. It's actually good, not a cheap cash grab.
I was also surprised his mom was not in it as much as well.
Well, I'm not, because Superman 2, she's not even in it at all.
Well, but this one's a bit different because he's been gone for 5 years. You thought, not that I wish that there were more scenes, but there could have been scenes more of him spending time with his mom and reacclimating a bit. But it's better for the story. They cut it and get him right back.
Well, let me ask this. I mean, I know we're not big Superman guys, so this goes to anyone listening if they do know. In the comics, when he is Superman, when he becomes Superman as an adult, is Mama Kent even really involved at all? She is.
I mean, not as much as
maybe
some
that's
adaptations,
the
but she's
Snyder,
involved.
The garbage Snyderverse. Maybe they add too much Mama Kent or something. Maybe we're just poisoned by that, and we are under the assumption that they're supposed to be more Mama Kent.
Yeah, I didn't wish that there was more
I know
scenes
what you're
of
saying.
it, but yeah.
I'm just saying in general. Maybe we're so
I
poisoned by the Snyder ones.
Yeah.
We don't
She
know
was in
what
the
Superman
animated
is.
series.
It's a series.
Because I assume it's similar to Spider-Man, where Aunt May is a voice of reason or guidance for him in tough times. So that's what I would put it as, or assume it is. But regardless, we're getting off topic.
I don't know. I have no idea about Superman. Kevin Spacey, the infamous Kevin Spacey. He was good in this movie. Even though Lex Luthor's plans is derivative, a little silly, he was schlocky, and it fits the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor. Especially when he yells, "Wrong! Wrong!"
It did get a chuckle on me that his plan was a more extreme version of the one in the first movie. He just wants he just wants real estate.
Yeah, he wants beachfront property, and he's going to destroy all of America, and it'll be all submerged. Because I thought about this. It's a little derivative, right? But it's the same Lex Luthor as the Gene Hackman one, so he's not going to be some crazy guy building missiles and fighting in mech suits, because he does that in the comics apparently. So it has to be more, not restrained, again, I used that word last time, but it has to be more in line with what Gene Hackman was doing.
Yeah.
So I can see the struggle.
Yeah.
They should have done something with the alien technology.
Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Maybe have a different villain, not Lex Luthor.
Yeah, that's true. Or he could have done something with the stolen crystals, with the alien technology he talked about, instead of just using the crystals with the kryptonite. So because they said crystals absorb the minerals around them or something.
I don't know. I just
it
was a bit derivative, but I still thought he was good.
Yeah, no, he was good. He was good.
Still better than whatever the other Lex Luthor was with.
Well, it's funny. He had a wig on early in the movie, and it looked just like the Jesse Eisenberg one with the long hair when he's at the museum, gonna steal the rock.
Now, I thought about this when he was talking about his plan. Where are they going to grow the food?
That's a good idea. They can't import anything. It's all rock. No one's gonna import with a terrorist.
Maybe they could have some sort of synthetic food from the crystals. Like they could eat crystals, maybe. But I know it's not a big deal. But like, what would you eat? It was literally the first thing I thought of. Like, how are you gonna grow food eating crystals?
That's very true, Craig. I don't think Lex Luthor thought he was too He was too engrossed listening to his own voice and looking at his maps he made to show Lois Lane and the yacht.
I thought about Craig, and I have your answer: crab people.
You start eating much crab.
Just
people.
become fisher. I liked Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. It was the perfect blend of methodical, maniac, and schlocky.
Wrong!
Yeah, camp, I guess is another word.
Well, especially towards, I think, the beginning, middle of the movie, he's basically just, kind of slowly plodding along, planning his evil things, not doing too much, not memorable. It's more, I guess, when you get to the third act where they get onto the boat, then he becomes more menacing and really kind of takes over.
He's testing throughout the whole movie his little plan.
Well,
I did like at the beginning where he signs the will over to himself, and then as he's walking out, no, not that part. But as he gets out, for whatever reason, he has a wig on, takes it off, and throws it at the kid and walks out.
Well, one part too that got a little chuckle out of me is when they return to the estate, and then Kitty says, "Weren't there two little dogs, like the little Pomeranians?" And you just see one dog, and you just see a bunch of like dog hair and bones.
Weren't there two of those?
You see, unlike our clunky Earth.
Yeah. Oh, sick. But I just think it was funny. Yeah, he managed to charm some old dying widow to inherit or steal all of her money and leave nothing to the family. Like, what a jerk!
Now that's evil. Because I guess in the comics, Lex Luthor is just jealous of Superman. I guess that's just his shtick, right? Because the Jesse Eisenberg, even though that one was terrible, it still had that same little breadcrumbs of that. Is that just who he is? He's just jealous of Superman?
Yeah, I think he doesn't like the fact that Superman gets all the glory. It's like, he's an alien. I'm a real human. I can do almost as much, and I don't need to be an alien to do so. Also, ego. He thinks he deserves to rule the world and all that stuff.
Yeah, this one definitely has the ego. Even when he's talking to Lois, he's like, "Come on, Lois, I want to hear it. Come on."
It's right there on the tip of your tongue. Superman, wrong!
Wrong!
Dare I say Superman Returns is the second best Superman? You can make an argument for the third best Superman movie, because you could put it after Superman 2 or after the first Superman. That's so much better than Man of Steel. This is a breath, even though this came out first, this is a breath of fresh air.
It's crazy to think that this movie is 20 years old.
Yeah. Well, just about, yeah.
Yeah, because like so many things that come out now where, it's got to be a deconstruction, it's got to be something depressing, it's got to in the real world, superheroes wouldn't be this good. They'd be wanting to murder people. It's like, yeah, probably, but we don't watch these things to see the real world. We watch it to kind of escape.
But I just think Superman is the wrong vehicle for a deconstruction of that kind of idea. He's just the wrong kind of hero to do that with.
I don't know. The reason why it's because he's the most famous character, and it's easy to. Also, he's the goodest character. Batman's always had a darker side.
Yeah,
to him,
Batman's easier to do with that.
That's why they want to do with Superman, because if he's the goodest character, they want to take him down to their level. That's why they pick Superman. That's why they always pick the good characters.
No, well, they never do it well, and they do it anyway.
Oh yeah, because some genius, some high schooler mentality thinks, "Hey man, what if Superman was bad?" Like that's never been thought of before. They really think they're that original.
Homelander, Omni-Man.
Oh my god, I mean, he goes back even further than that, but...
Well, this, again, to contrast to Man of Steel, when Metropolis is under attack, not really under attack, but everything's going wrong, Superman saves everything. He saves everyone, he utilizes his powers, and they had news clippings earlier on in the movie, too, when he's back. He's saving everybody, he's smiling, most importantly, he doesn't look depressed, tugging a giant boat in the Arctic.
Like when he saves Kitty, he's all like trying to be nice to her. He brings her to the hospital personally.
Yeah, and she's like, "Do you want to get coffee?" He's like, "Goodbye." But it was a courteous goodbye.
Yeah. Imagine the airplane scene where he gently drops it down in the baseball stadium. Zack Snyder would have just slam dunked it.
Yeah, everything would have been. He would have saved only Lois out of the 100 or so people on that plane, and then he would bring her down slowly in the midst of the fire, and then kiss her.
Like covering the mist of blood.
Yeah.
And then after kisses her, looks around, depressed in the flames. I do have a question for you, Colin, since you saw the second one.
Yes.
Was there any hint of Lois being pregnant, or was this just something
No, they
completely
did sleep
added on
together
to this
though.
one?
But the crazy thing in the second one is that this is where it gets a little creepy, or not really creepy. It's more of the implication. So in the second one, at the very end, Lois knows who Superman is. That's like a big part of the second movie. This will lead into the Donner cut too. In the second one, he kisses her at the very end, and she forgets everything that happened during the course of the movie. So it's not really stated what she remembers in the movie, but I guess you can assume up until the point where she reveals he's Superman. That's in this. Not I was about to say Snyder. That was in the original theatrical cut. In the Donner cut, he goes back in time, just like the end of the first movie. Because originally, I don't know if you guys know, when they were filming the first and second one together, the original one was supposed to end on a cliffhanger, kind of, and the ending to the second one was always going to be Clark going back in time to stop everything. But then, when they halted production on Superman 2, they said, finish Superman 1. So Richard Donner took the ending of Superman 2 and put that at the end of the first one. So in the Donner cut, it's superior in every single way to the theatrical cut, except the ending. Because it's just a retread of the first movie. So he goes back in time and Lois Lane forgets everything.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because they didn't plan to do that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Interesting, though.
But yes, there was a scene in the second one to answer your question. Because they set up a misdirection with the kid, because they show that he's asthmatic, he needs lots of pills and whatever, vitamin supplements, and then obviously he just pushes that giant piano into that big goon and kills him.
Crush that dude.
I have not seen this movie beginning to end before, but I've seen some scenes here and there over the years, and I do remember some of the scenes, like the kid pushing the piano, so that I knew that.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me, but that's because I've seen it before.
At least they tried to have a misdirection for the audience.
Yeah. And I like that when Lex Luthor basically says that he assumes that was his son. I like that it doesn't kind of like drag you along the rest of the movie. Wait until the very end to find out. 10 minutes later, they actually, it's the son of Superman.
Yeah. Who's that boy's father? He puts the kryptonite right to his face.
What a monster.
Well, speaking of monster, Craig, the scene...
Lois Lane? Oh.
No. Well, we'll get to Lois Lane in a little bit. At the climax, when Superman goes to confront Lex Luthor on the new land, he brutally beats him up. He stabs him. His goons try to drown him.
Gives the wrong neighborhood.
Yeah, Kumar was there.
Yeah, he was. That's right. And then Lex Luthor stabs him in the ribs and then snaps the piece of kryptonite and basically just lets him fall off and drown. Now fly.
I know, it's incredibly brutal. Like, imagine being a kid seeing this movie. Oh man, I love Superman. I can't wait to see this movie and see him get brutally beaten by some bald man and his goons.
But I think that makes a villain more, not intimidating, because Lex Luthor just looks silly, but it makes him more menacing and interesting.
I agree 100%. It just...
No, I know what you're saying. Where he is clearly not on the same level as Superman. Superman could blow on him and he would go to Mars, but the fact that he was able to bring Superman down to his level and then beat him up, even though it was really his goons, but I don't know, that's so great.
Well, how can he monologue if the goons were beating him up? He can't monologue and beat him up.
That's true. Because nowadays you'd have a villain that is of equal power to the protagonist.
With an army.
With an army, a CGI army, or a beam that goes into the sky.
Or a big
or both.
blacker ship.
Or a big black ship that's bigger and meaner. That's called the Vengeance.
I will kill the good guy ship.
Helmed by Captain Bad Guy. But this one is more nuanced, right? Where he's actually more sadistic than in the first movie, where he's just like, yeah, I'm going to put this chain around you and throw you in a pool. This one,
shallow pool.
He lets out some anger, because remember, Lex Luthor was in prison for 5 years, even though it's really silly. But again, it's in the world of the Christopher Reeve ones. He says Superman can do everything, but go to court dates. And because Superman was gone when Lex Luthor was going through the appeal process or something. A little silly. That got a chuckle out of me.
It did give me a chuckle, but I just kind of wish
yeah.
they just didn't include that.
Yes.
Just because I know there's some things when people say campy, I think it's more, things can be a little silly, but not to the point where it's almost too realistic. Oh, missing a court date will screw up a court case. Yeah, that feels a little too realistic. It's not, if you just escape from prison, I mean, at that point, what's the difference? I like the movie, so I wish they just had these little tweaks to it because I feel like it doesn't hurt it, but or it's not like to the point of it ruins the movie, but
Oh yeah,
just
yeah.
tweak it.
Yeah,
So people don't have that little.
but when the movie itself is good, there aren't too many flaws with it. You do kind of more nitpick into these little things because there aren't other
Yeah.
glaring issues with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know people in 2006 were complaining that there wasn't a lot of action sequences. For me, it's perfectly fine. I don't need an excess of explosions to entertain
But
me. There could have been a little more saving scenes, I agree, yeah. But again, as we
the
said,
saving scenes were done well.
yeah, not only were they done well, but the movie was restrained. It wasn't about the violence and explosions and Superman punching people and screaming.
Well, it's quite the opposite. It's not about the violence; it's about the heroism that he's doing all these
Yes,
great feats
yeah,
to
that-
save people.
That's why I don't mind that there's not a lot of action sequences because everything else is well done. Good movies are like that. You don't need explosions every 5 minutes.
But it's funny too, because that scenes where he's saving people, the one where he gets the Daily Planet, you could tell that he was in a rush because he goes right through the windows in the building. Normally he
Oh,
avoids
yeah.
property damage, but he's like,
Yeah.
I can't, I got to go through the building, and he saves it. I just love the shot of holding up the globe like Atlas. I don't know, I just like the look of it that he's that strong, saving the world.
Well, it's super strong. He lifts the whole continent out of the ocean
It's very Kafka-esque.
and throws it into the space.
But you find yourself rooting for him in those scenes, especially after the beating he just took from Lex Luthor, gets stabbed, and he goes under and lifts it up and raises it all the way to the point where it collapses on the goons. He doesn't even have to kill them; they die by their own
Folly.
stupidity.
yeah, their own folly, which is a much better payoff than Superman ripping out the kryptonite, turning around and lasering one guy in half.
Or he says to Lex Luthor, "I'm gonna bring you home in a body bag, and that's more you deserve," or whatever. He just calmly says, "You have what's mine, and I want it back," referring to the crystals. Again, night and day difference. He's not threatening to laser Lex Luthor in half.
I keep forgetting how bad the Snyder one is. Like you're saying the body bag. I'm in a body bag, yeah. Like I said, those movies, they really felt like they hated the source material. I mean, you have the one shot of it stopping the kitty's car, and it's like the Superman, I think, Action Comics one with a car
with the
over his
car,
head.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing over the top, but it's a nice little reference to the first comic. They definitely cared when they made this, which always shows. Because I feel like that's what these movies, if the people care, even if the movie's not perfect, you can at least, I think there's a more positive outlook on it. When people don't care and they make a bad movie or a mid movie, I think the flaws stand out more because clearly, like, if they cared, they wouldn't have done this. They would have done a better job.
And you could see the respect that they have
Yeah.
for the source material in the Christopher Reeve movies.
Yeah, and the passion too. Like they wanted to do a good job.
Yeah, they could have gone the route of, again, excessive explosions and destruction. Superman levels all Metropolis, but they went the route where it's more quiet. It's a little more slower paced, but it focuses on Clark and the characters.
I did
guess-
like how awkward Clark was.
Yeah, just like the Reeve one. Yeah.
I like the scene where he meets her on the rooftop of the Daily Planet, and then when she comes back down after the long,
he's eating,
flying
yeah.
around. Yeah, he looks at her. It was like he's gaslighting her. He's like, "Where were you?"
But the little detail of that same scene, but earlier, where her and Richard are discussing Superman's attributes, and she's like, "Yeah, he's 6'4", he's 220, 225", and he goes, "How tall is Clark?" And she's like, 6'3", 6'4". He's, how much does he weigh? 215, 220. And Clark's listening, so he just turns and looks around awkwardly and waves at them, and then they laugh just to play it off.
Oh, that's nice little charming moments.
I like too his suit up sequences where he goes into the elevator, just takes off the glasses and rips off his clothes and flies out.
But I feel like that. I mean, I know the classic is the phone booth, but I feel like that's a good way to take off his costume and go away, go into the elevator alone, just fly out, and then fly back in. People won't notice. At least
Yeah.
the phone booth, I think, is a little too obvious. But I know it's the classic one. I'm not gonna pick on it too
Yeah.
much.
I did also like at the end of the airplane scene, he's standing at the door and the whole stadium erupts and is cheering for him to be back. And he's looking around like, yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, I
It
miss
was a nice
this.
little touch.
Yeah,
It's nice to people to be happy to. It's just nice to see it.
This was such a small scene, but where he goes to see where she lives and he's just flying through the street and people are like, oh, there he is. How people would react if they actually saw him flying through.
Well, a scene that I liked when he has Lois and they're flying up in Earth by the atmosphere, and she says, "Oh, we don't need you." And then he says, "Do you hear that?" And she hears nothing. And he says, "I hear everything, and people always need help."
You wrote that the world doesn't need a savior. But every day I hear people crying for one.
That's
Yeah.
Superman. That is Superman. Not him listening to his dad. What am I supposed to do? Let them die? Maybe.
But it's true too. Like he's right. It's always going to need some, but people are always going to need saving. You know, Lois, it's easy for her to say when she's not actively in danger or living in bad spots, and I guess also a little upset at him. Because I like that scene too, where they were clearly having a fight, but they weren't saying each other's names. It's like, well, maybe he didn't know how to say goodbye, or he was upset too, but didn't know how to express himself.
Yeah, Superman at the end rediscovers his purpose when he realizes that he doesn't have to be wanted or needed, but he will always be there to save people, no matter what. And I think that is great.
It is.
Not depressed guy running around and blowing up buildings.
It's nice to see people being good for the sake of being good.
And I've always thought the scene at the end of the movie where he basically quote unquote dies. I saw that movie scene as a kid. I thought it was even sadder now, where they can't save him. All the saving that they do for him or he does for them. They can't save him. They can't pierce him with his medical instruments. They can't do any sort of anything to save him. Like, we want to help you, but we can't. We're doing everything we can. But I just thought it was so tragic. Obviously, he doesn't die, but just imagine that is how he dies. They can't, give him an IV. They can't restart his heart. They can't do anything to save him.
And again, also at the core of that too, he sacrificed himself to save the people who moved on from him and don't really care about him anymore. But he still does it anyway. He would gladly do it any day of the week.
Yeah, and look,
Superman.
Yes, but look, and they try to repay. I mean, they try to repay him by trying to save him. I know they don't. It doesn't help. It doesn't work. But
Yeah, they tried.
still, like,
Ma
I
Kent
thought it
was
was
there
just so
too.
sad.
And this is
Definitely-
something. Oh, you continue, Craig. Continue. I'm sorry.
That was my favorite scene in the whole movie. I know it's kind of sad, but I thought it was just nice that he sacrificed himself, and then they try to do their part and save him, their hero, and can't save him. He's too strong to save.
Now, this is something that I distinctly remember as a kid when I saw it on the DVDs all those years ago. I remember this might be the Mandela effect, because I could have sworn when they pan out of the island that Lex Luthor and Kitty are on, it was in the shape of the Superman S.
Was it?
It's not, but as a kid, I
Oh.
thought it was. I thought I remembered that as a kid. Now it's probably the Mandela effect, or I'm losing my mind. It's probably both.
Yeah, I'd say latter, but
But I just distinctly remember that as a kid, and I rewatched it a couple years ago, and when I rewatched it today, it was just some random island.
oh, I thought it was a little poetic. Right, he finally got his beachfront property.
Oh no, I know that. I'm just saying when it panned out. I remember as a kid it was in the shape of a Superman logo.
You know what's crazy, Craig, is that you picked that up and they didn't have to have some cringy dialogue scene about it.
Yeah, Kitty did say, "Well, Lex, looks like you got what you wanted."
You got so angry at the end. I would trade 100,000 coconuts and all your blood for a quart of gasoline. Jeez.
Definitely a better Lex Luthor than what's that guy's name?
Jesse
Eisenberg.
Eisenberg.
Craig, anyone is better than that. That wasn't
You
Lex
mean-
Luthor. That was
you
the
mean the
Joker.
Riddler?
Yeah, Riddler, Joker.
I know we've been very positive about this, but there are some things that I did not like.
Is it Lois Lane?
It's always Lois Lane. I really don't get why Superman likes her.
I think she's at least better in this one than the first one. And even the second one, because at least this one gives her more to do.
Just 'cause she has more to do doesn't mean she's a good person or a good character.
Yes, but she wasn't really a good character in anything she's been in.
I don't know. Just I feel like every Lois Lane adaptation, I hate with the passion. But because at the beginning of the movie, she's annoying the person on the plane, the NASA person or whoever she was supposed to be, the Air Force person. She takes off her seatbelt.
Yep.
It gets like 20 concussions knocking around the plane. Because even in the boat, she's getting knocked around and kept getting hit in the head.
Well, Craig, in the boat, she got thrashed by another guy.
Yeah, but still getting knocked around.
Well, she actually did something smart in that scene. Before she got beaten up by that guy, Craig, she sent a fax so they could know where she is.
No, but even when they locked her up in the brig, she was getting knocked around because the ship was sinking.
Well, that wasn't her fault.
No, but she probably has a very minor
You're
case
just
of
a hater.
There's a very minor case of serious brain damage.
Yeah, she was stupid on the plane. I don't know why she would do that.
I didn't like her. I just don't like reporter characters, and then I don't know. I really don't know why he likes her. It feels almost forced because I don't know. Superman comes off as a very humble, nice guy. She comes off as a little more arrogant and not as I don't know. He can do better.
Richard could too.
Yeah, I mean that was also weird too, like raising Superman's son.
Well, he doesn't know it's Superman's son.
He's gonna know.
He's gonna know
Well, I mean,
when he accidentally
the
throws
whole-
a piano at him. Well, one thing
Yeah.
too is that at least it's portrayed that Clark isn't a deadbeat dad, because he's obviously gone for 5 years. He didn't know. It wasn't like he was actively avoiding the kid, flying, being on the opposite side of the planet, wherever that kid is.
I have to get milk on Krypton.
Yeah.
Yeah, some milk and some cigarettes. No, I know what you're saying. Like, he's not a bad dad
Yeah.
because obviously he didn't know. You can't be in trouble for what you don't know. But the whole thing felt very weird. And looking back in the movie, it still doesn't sit right with me.
Oh,
I
poor
can't imagine.
Richard.
Yeah, it's not like he was a bad person. Where oh yeah, screw you, Richard. Like, he was by no like a normal good guy. He just because you can't compete with Superman. That's really it.
The guy has super in his name. No one's competing with that.
He flew the plane. He tried to help save Superman. He did all the right stuff like a normal human hero could do. Just he's not Superman.
That's a shame, too. This was being filmed when X-Men 3 was being filmed, so Fox, being the geniuses they are, they're like, you know what? Let's just kill Cyclops.
I mean, I don't know. I probably would have been an X-Men 3 over this if I was Cyclops, just because.
Well, maybe he knew that he wasn't going to get a big role anyway, so he's like, yeah, I'll just come on this.
I don't know, man.
I think that's what it probably was. Again, I'm not James Marsden. I don't know. I wasn't there. But imagine he probably saw, I'm going to be the 10th mutant in this movie. I'm going to have 3 scenes I'm in. I don't want to be in this, really.
The 10th mutant. The leader of the X-Men becomes the 10th mutant.
Am I wrong?
No.
I am curious because I saw that not long after this got released that they canceled. They had a sequel planned for 2009, was it, to be released in? I'm curious what their plans would have been for that unless they released what their plans were.
I don't know Superman villains. I know they said there was one villain they were going to have, but to some guy like me, it means no, never mind.
I'm sure they would have dived more into him raising his son and developing another Superman. Superboy.
Let's see. Michael Dougherty wanted other Kryptonians with Brainiac and Bizarro.
Bizarro's kind of lame. I would like to see Brainiac.
Because it seemed like they definitely were going to listen to the criticism of the lack of action scenes for the sequel.
Isn't just Bizarro an evil Superman?
He's like the inverted Superman. I think he can. So instead of laser vision, I think he's got like cold vision. Like his powers are the complete opposite.
But he was
Kinda lame.
Kryptonian?
It's kind of lame.
I think he's like some messed up clone. Point is, I think for a main, like, he could be a fun side muscle kind of villain, but as a main villain, I think he's kind of lame.
I guess he would have been Brainiac's goon.
That's the way he talks too, like me, Bizarro. I think you have a whole movie of the guy talking like that.
Yeah, it seemed like also for the sequel, it didn't make a whole lot of money, and the writer's strike messed up some things too for the movie, for the sequel at least. Would have been cool though. I would have liked to see a sequel.
If this got a sequel, we never would have gotten Man of Steel, so shame on Warner Bros.
It would have been interesting to see Superman balancing responsibilities of being a father without fully being with the mom. Unless they were planning on Clark and Lois getting together, or him revealing it in the sequel.
I feel like they would have to.
What did you think of Superman's best friend, Jimmy Olsen?
I thought he was good.
I love just fawning over him constantly.
Mr. Clark. Yeah, I thought Jimmy Olsen's good. Again, I don't really know the character aside from the movies and besides him getting capped in Batman vs. Superman.
He wasn't killed by a terrorist.
Yeah, he was just some happy-go-lucky young guy who works in a press room.
Well, because I think he used to have his own comic. Because I've always seen the title like Superman's best friend, Jimmy Olsen, or Superman's best pal, Jimmy Olsen. He's been around for a long time, and yeah, he's not some military guy getting killed by terrorists, that's for sure.
I like he made a cake for Clark, but then there's like a piece of a chunk missing. And then Jimmy was looking for approval. And
That's what
Clark's
best
like,
friends do.
Yeah, he's looking at him, and Clark, it looks great, Jimmy. And he smiles.
Nice to see Jimmy Olsen. And we get a real Jimmy Olsen again, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm curious how maybe this movie will be looked upon more favorably, because I think we could possibly conclude this episode by talking about the criticisms it got, because it got good reviews at the time. It has a 74% Rotten Tomatoes, a 72% on Metacritic, but the audiences didn't really like it too much. It has a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb. It has like a 60% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So I wonder what the disconnect was.
I mean, it was a little slow, so I guess if you're a younger audience member at the time, it's probably not the most exciting thing to watch.
Yeah,
So I can get that a little
see
bit.
that, but
Plus, being a sequel to a movie that came out in the 80s or 70s, 80s was.
Yeah, I guess it was more closed off for people who have seen the first two movies or grew up with that. It wasn't an entire reboot like Man of Steel.
Yeah, so I mean, I think some of those factors, and I know they said part of the reason why the budget was so big is because they included production from previous attempts of making Superman. So
Oh God, they did?
that's also why I
Because
think it
there's
lost
the
money.
J.J. Abrams attempt that they
Yeah,
tried to do.
I think there were two attempts before this one. I think that got rolled into this budget.
Oh no, really? That's such a shame. It could have made more money.
So basically, it was doomed to fail.
Oh my God, that's terrible. I did not know that. Well, there's the infamous Nicolas Cage attempt. And then I
Yes.
think there was the J.J. Abrams one where he was writing it. He wasn't directing it, he was writing it. And then Singer was approached by Warner Bros., it says, and he pitched his idea of Superman Returns. And then he brought his X2 writers, Dan Harris and Michael Dougherty, to write it. Interesting. That is such a shame it got lumped into those other attempts.
I'm reading, apparently Henry Cavill auditioned for this.
I think he'd have been too young at that point.
Chris Pratt also auditioned too.
Oh, they're not that much different in age. Brandon Routh right now is 45 years old. How old is Henry Cavill? Henry Cavill is 42. Yeah. 4 years apart.
Imagine Chris Pratt in this role.
I don't think he would have done a good job. No slight to Chris Pratt, but I think Brandon Routh captured the Christopher Reeve performance perfectly. Because again, they're not doing their own performance. They're basing their performance off of another performance.
Because I saw this was like the most expensive movie ever made at the time, right? Or one of the most.
Yeah, it had a budget of over 200 million, I think.
Jesus.
And it grossed 391. So if let's just say hypothetically that those other attempts were in the 50 to 70 million dollar range, it would have made this movie way more profitable. Just from what even keeping the same number it grossed, it would have been way more profitable.
Well, yeah. Plus, if they had a sequel, it probably could have done better since this one's kind of tying into the old ones. This and then the next one could have been its own thing. They never got a proper chance to make their own movie or make their own mark. At least the actor, he did get to play the role again.
I did see that in the Flash TV show, right?
Yeah, in the Arrowverse they call it. There's a big crossover event.
I never saw it, but I saw that he came back for him. People were kind of excited for him because they always felt like he got the raw deal.
Well, he was also in the Arrow show, I think, as Adam. He played that role.
Oh, yeah. So I guess he get to play two characters, but it's just nice to see him get a second chance.
Yeah, it's good that he's getting the recognition he deserves because his performance was great.
Let me take my pot shots.
We're sure Brandon Routh is not related to Christopher Reeves because it was spot on with him. I thought it was funny. This is a little side thing, but when Superman landed down, somehow you still see his little cowl, his little curl still perfectly. It just stayed perfectly the whole time.
Oh, another thing too.
Still curls.
Another thing too. I did like the little update in the design for his suit.
What about it?
I liked it.
Oh, okay. Because people complain that the suit was too dark, or like they toned it down. Like, yeah, a little bit, but I don't know. I didn't mind.
I liked it. Because to me, the original one, I like it, but it just looks like PJs. This one looks more like a suit.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow, you really don't realize how dark Man of Steel suit was until you compare it to these.
Well, the thing with the Man of Steel suit is that before they toned it down, it's a lot brighter, but the movie's desaturated entirely.
Well, color is for children.
Yes. If you look at behind the scenes photo, it's a lot brighter. It's still a dark blue, but it's brighter.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, wow, it's really...
The Superman Returns suit's pretty good. You guys have anything else to say about Superman Returns?
I guess would this lead us into what are your expectations for the new Superman?
I have some expectations because James Gunn's doing it and the trailers look good. It looks bright and colorful and Superman looks full of hope.
Wrong!
So,
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely... Because our next episode is Jurassic Park, the new one. And then after that is Superman. Because Superman doesn't come out yet. It doesn't come out for another 10 days as of this recording.
I'm not complaining about that. I'm complaining about Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. My only thing from the trailers is that it seems there could be a bit of an overload with all these other characters they're introducing. I get it. Maybe Gunn is trying to set up a universe in a good swoop. But that's my only concern with it. But other than that, I think the suit looks fine. The guy they casted looks the part. So we'll see.
Yeah, the movie does look a little too overstuffed with characters, but who knows? It could play out. I don't know. Do you guys want to give your final thoughts on Superman Returns before we wrap it up?
Like I said, I thought it was a good movie. A little slow.
Yeah.
Some weird decisions
Yeah.
like Richard White, but overall, I liked it.
Yeah, solid movie. Don't
Yeah.
understand the flack for it, but I was like the first Superman. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I liked it too. Again, it's not perfect. We never said it was perfect, but it's a very solid movie, and it's definitely underrated, and I liked it a lot. So with all that being said, our next week episode is going to be Jurassic World Rebirth. Then we'll do Superman again. We'll dive back into the Superman world. So with all that being said, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
Craig.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel Wayne.
That's lame. We'll see you next time.
Wrong!